The Ohio Club opened its doors in 1905. Although the ownership has changed, the aesthetic has not changed. From its original massive hand-carved mahogany bar to its memorabilia from the past, being the oldest continually operating bar in Arkansas must have some stories.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I've been a server and bartender at the Ohio Club for almost 5 years. I've actually had a lot of experiences in here. The very first experience I had, I was here for maybe about a month. It was during the day. We had just opened, and I was actually standing right at the end of the bar, dazed off into the mirror, had my hair in a ponytail, and said I can see myself perfectly. There's nobody behind me. My ponytail just flipped up in the air. Saw it clear as day, and there was nothing else interfering with that. Freaked me out for a minute, but I experienced quite a few more things and realized it wasn't anything negative. It was actually more of like trickster, prankster type energy. I've had things flicked at me, I feel stuff up in my back, things like that.
You can tell that something is coming through because they're not happy. They'd really rather just be a happy place. I've actually got a video that you can watch. That was before I married the owner. We were at his condo, and it was a Sunday night back in 2011, when at Sunday night at midnight everything would get turned off. There'd be no AC, nothing that would kick on and off, no lights, no fans, no anything, and we happened to wake up on the couch and looked over at the laptop and saw what it looked like as people were dancing. Now this was before this was here. This was before this was here. It was just straight ground, and they were just having a good time. And then we saw another part, but he couldn't record it fast enough, that somebody walked up and went straight through the wall. You could just see it. I mean, it was like, but he didn't get that recorded as he got that part recorded. And you can see on that, if you've seen it, he's trying to focus in to see the images of the bodies, that they're just having a good time here. They're like, hey, party's still going on. So, yeah.
Where can that be seen?
Excuse me?
Do you want to share where it can be seen?
Absolutely. You can go to the Ohio Club on Facebook to the videos. And if you scroll to the very last one, you'll see something talking about the ghost of the Ohio Club. And it's a camera that was up in that far corner up there. And that's where it projected down to here, and you can see some activities.
Probably after a couple years, finally got used to just all the little weird things. I had a woman ask me to come to her table, and the first thing she asked is, has anything weird ever happened to you in here? And I said, yes, I've had quite a few things. And she said, well, has anything ever happened with your hair? And I was astonished that she had asked that. She said, well, she's a medium, and I was there at work for probably about 20 minutes at the time, and she said she has watched the spirit following me around, and he was not interested in anybody else but me. She goes, can you tell me a few other things that have happened to you? I was like, yeah, I just feel like rubbing on my back, things like flicking at me, like nothing heavy or weird. And she goes, every time you say something that's happened to you, he is standing there with his hand over his mouth laughing. He likes to play jokes on you. And she said his name is Bart. He was a bartender here in the early 1900s, button-up shirt and long white apron, but he likes to play jokes on you most of the time.
All right, so I started about 4 months ago, and the second month I was here, we have the dungeon. And this is where we keep all of our extra storage and everything. It's really hard to move in here. So I was right about in here, and I was stocking beer. I was going through the different beer things and stuff, and I could hear conversations going on upstairs, and the floors are pretty thin, so you can hear voices pretty clearly and everything. But I was stocking beer, and I almost felt like another body next to me, and I registered it right before I heard it, but I heard a voice, and the voice said, "What are you doing in here?" And it sounded like it was right over my shoulder right here. And, I stopped for a second, and I thought maybe I was hearing things, but I also felt it while I was hearing the voice, that it was completely unnatural. It was unnaturally close, and there was definitely like a physical presence behind me.
couple of servers that we had in the day, they would literally have their hair pulled, and they weren't as happy with it, you know, because they felt that it was something that was a negative, but I think it was just trying to get a recognition. There's a story that there was a mirror up here on this wall, and my ex who owned the place, somebody came downstairs and said, hey, there's a woman up here in the daytime, and she was very upset because there was a man staring at her. So he came up thinking, it's a bar, you know, somebody's not being right. So he asked her, and she said, well, it's a man. He's got an old-time hat, like a fedora and a pinstripe suit, and he's looking at me through the mirror. And he was like, he's not in here. And she's like, but he was there. And so he pretty much just made her go like, you know, it's probably your imagination. So then he went back downstairs, he's sitting at the bar, and she comes downstairs to go to the restroom, and she looks in the mirror that's behind the bar and sees the same image. And it freaks her out so bad that she comes up, grabs her husband, and they just leave and don't even pay the bill, they just walk out. So that was that experience. There's been blue curacao that's been thrown off of the back of the bar. And you could think, okay, maybe something shimmied it or something, and then after the servers and the bartenders got down there, because it took like 4 of them to clean that sticky substance, then another one was put up, and about 45 minutes later, went right back. So, you know, it's kind of hard to think that something is doing the same liquor at the same time. One of my biggest personal experiences was I had a band here 11 years ago. And you're right, Jen, 8 years ago when that was recorded. But this was 11 years ago, and right here where we have all the musical equipment, on breaks, it was my job to turn on the iPad that would have the music that would perform on our breaks. And so I went over and I turned it up to 3, and I stood right here, guitar player stood there, and bass player. We're talking, and prior to that, things would happen like the lights would go just to me while I'm performing, and everybody would be like looking at me, and they'd go back to everybody else. My microphone would be like on mute for 3 or 4 seconds, then come back on. We just thought, you know, didn't know what to think about that, but it was always focusing on me. This time, peripheral, I could see the iPad, that when the line to the Little River Band song came on and said this, it went from 3 to the top, and it said, don't be thinking that I don't want you, 'cause lady, I do. And then it went right back down to 3. Place was packed, everybody got real quiet. Wow. And the band members looked at me and said, they want you. So, I mean, that's the one thing I know for sure, and I thought right then that, okay, so they are focusing.
There were more visual things that we could look at and say, well, okay, can't explain that. The whole time we were talking to Donna, that little cat ball was not moving at all, but it was lit up like a Christmas tree. Samantha was sitting right next to it, wasn't moving. I've never seen that happen before. I've seen where it's sitting somewhere and it'll go off, but not go off again. I've never seen it almost constantly go off and stay just lit up.
So it was probably a few years ago. It was at the end of the night after last call. There was 2 men that do not know each other sitting at the bar. The last 2 men sitting at the bar. They didn't know each other. They were conversing with the bartender. I, as a server, witnessed this happen. I was standing on the stairs, and next thing they know, there is a chair that went all the way to the back of the wall. Neither of them touched it. We all saw it, and of course the 2 guys freaked out about it, but we told us nothing to worry about. Those things happen around here. No big deal, just our friendly ghost. Just trying to say hi.
His voice, I hear voices, because y'all were in the hallway and stuff talking. I was like, I can hear all that. I think I hear very low, get out. Like a very calm woman's voice saying, get out.
And that's what people have heard in the past as women.
Hey, this is Chris. I have a device at the end of my hand. If you talk very loud into the end of it, I can hear you.
So going in there, it already has a mystique and an atmosphere when you go in. I do know that we had a specific, it was the women's bathroom, I believe, that we started investigating. And when we went in there, of course, it was me, Lauren and Michelle. And at one point we asked how many people are in the how many other people are in the bathroom.
Can you tell me how many people are in this bathroom right now with you?
Was asking for someone's name, and I got what I thought was Catherine, and we're pretty definite. We were all hearing Catherine or anything. And then of course I go back and listen to audio in a more clear capacity, and I'm hearing Jeffrey.
You want to tell us your name?
Of course, we also were able to see footage from years back where it literally looks like orbs and mist within the room upstairs, and it looks like people dancing. I mean, it's orbs moving. You know, you'll see two orbs, and they're moving basically in the same pattern together, like people dancing. And someone was just cleaning up, and you see that wine glass just fly off of there into the other side of the bar. So to have seen those pieces of evidence before we ever went in there, I couldn't have been more excited to investigate that place.
The lady that used to be the owner there, when she came, there was a different energy that entered the building. And upon that, while she was speaking, I received so many messages for her. And I was just sitting there writing them while she was talking, and I'm writing everything down. And Lauren, our camera lady, she comes by and she's like zooming in on the thing, and I just turned it over. She goes, "What's that?" And I said, "It's a message for somebody." And I was like, I didn't give it to her. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't. I was very uncomfortable with delivering that message. It was such a warm, she had so many spirit guides around her that were very loving and enduring, that was guiding her, and they wanted to make sure that she knew that. And then she was so loved. It's very, very emotional to actually like pull all that energy back, because it was real strong. It was a real strong love and energy, and it was a very, 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 very. I just had to sit there for a minute and like do that, and I'm so sorry. Very, very powerful. Very, very. I mean, it was a lot. It's really hard to explain. Like, I couldn't write fast enough, and it was just so much like love and guidance, and it was just so warm and inviting, and she's so loved, and she was like really loved and gifted.
It's a K2 meter, so whenever there is an electric and magnetic field presence, they can manipulate it and make the colors change. So green is usually very calm, there's nothing going on. But if it's going to be a stronger presence, it can go all the way up to yellow, orange, and red.
So it kind of made me understand why it was reaching to me, because there was a little bit of a connection with the Chevrolet dealership.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Has that been going the whole time you've been talking?
Yes. Yeah.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what that is that's, I don't even remember what it's called, but it's and nothing's moving it.
Yeah.
Nothing's over there.
Yeah.
It's maybe it's validating that, you know, it knows what's going on, because there's many pictures. I'd have to go back and look, but there's a lot of pictures that were taken in here when we were partying where there'd be orbs over somebody's head. So when we were smoking club up until 2013, you could say, well, that was probably some smoke. Since then, there's nothing that you can tag that as being, simply because there's no smoke, there's nothing in the air. Now, we'll say that we hired a gentleman that came in here that used to do all of our promotional pictures. And he brought his cameras late night because we were going to see if he could pick something up. Now, he has Starline Photographic. The man literally teaches classes out at the college. He brought 2 different cameras, fully charged, came up here, turned the one on, drained the battery within 1 minute. So he thought, okay, maybe it didn't charge right. Grabs the other camera, within 2 minutes it completely drained. And he just looked at all of us and said, I guess I'm not supposed to get something tonight. So yeah, there's things that go on. I mean, it's not a, that right there could be more proof right there, just that's doing that, because I've invited it in and said, hey, I do tell them when I leave out of here, this is your home, stay here, don't follow. And I say it kiddingly because I haven't had any experiences that make me feel that threatened, scared, or just, they will say, and if those walls could talk, well, they do if you kind of listen.
Using my Spirit Box 7, so this is kind of what the app that Chris has on his iPad. That's what this does. And so I've been using this since we got in, and I've already been told hi, and I've already been told liquor. So we're going to sit here at the bar and see.
There's been downstairs, I do know of the experience. Saw it on camera, it did not get recorded, but saw it. If you notice the tile downstairs, if you pull the chair, we can show that when you go downstairs, if you pull the chair out, you're going to hear it scrape against that tile. And there was people sitting and reached over to touch something, and the chair moved out and there was no sound. And it was like, how could that not make sound?
You're here with us, Spark. Give us a sign. Do something. Mess with somebody, revel on something, mess with some lights, do what you gotta do.
That one behind you's going off.
Yeah, my K2 meter.
So I was leaning against the bar like this, talking to some bar customers. Full bars, either Friday or Saturday night. I had a fellow bartender and our bar back, Clint back here with us. I was telling them some history, things like that, and I felt a hand right here kind of almost push, like saying, hey, I'm walking behind you to talk to these other customers. So I felt that, so I got closer to the bar and turned around and was doing this, and I had a look of confusion on my face, and my customers asked what's going on. I was like, well, I just felt a hand right here basically saying, like, hey, get out of the way, I'm trying to get behind you. Thought it was the 2 of them. They were all freaked out because they saw it happen, me move forward, everything, and look in to see which one of them was walking behind me. There was nobody there.
Miss Donna actually just confirmed what I was picking up, which was really interesting, which I keep on getting New York bookings in either Charlie or Charles, and that name's also related to New York. The New York bookings, evidently that is Mr. Oni, so that makes a lot of sense. Charlie Charles didn't register with her, so we're not sure what that is, or who that is, or who's trying to come through.
That there was a lot of confusion while we were here, but once the lady shows up, they're just real content and happy. They really like her. There's some ancestors here to see her, and somebody's name is Catherine.
Catherine? Catherine? Okay.
There's a cat.
So the Ohio Club started by John Coffey Williams and Sam Watt in 1905. When Hot Springs was becoming the new booming town, people moved here from all over. And if you're opening a club, you would most likely name it after your home state, which they came here from Ohio, but they were originally from Illinois, and they wanted to call it the Illinois Club. Well, there was already one here, so they had to name it the Ohio Club, and it has been that way ever since through multiple owners. But it, in the past 13 years, has gone back to its original appearance and is now back to being the prohibition-style looking Ohio Club that it started to be.
The Ohio Club originally opened as a bar and a casino during a time when gambling was illegal and alcohol was prohibited. The Ohio Club turned into a speakeasy and changed its name to the Ohio Cigar Store in an effort to shelter the illegal activities in the back. Though it's been raided many times, some just for show, it's never shut down. Is the Ohio Club haunted? Maybe you should find out for yourself.